A pleasant good morning to everyone. I'm Marcia Weeks, and I'm the host of the Marcia Weeks Show. And we are gathered here today at this press conference that has been called by the citizens of Barbados to ask the government pertinent questions about the Trident ID and Barbados Identity Management Bill. And I would like, before we even begin, so that we get the sense that this is coming from citizens, I would ask everyone who is seated behind me to just stand, please. Everybody who's seated behind me, because this is being done as people who are these are citizens who are concerned about what is happening in our country. Thank you so very much, and thank you for coming this morning. Thank you so much. Want to welcome Starcom and the Nation who are here, and we're waiting on the other media houses to be present. But we're going to go right ahead. I want to welcome those who are watching, those citizens who are watching via Zoom. Thank you for joining, and those who are watching via YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so very much. The questions you will hear today are compiled and contributed by several members of the citizenry of Barbados. These are questions relating to the security, privacy, and management of the personal data of our citizens. Now, Barbados has been a victim to a barrage of cyber attacks on critical institutions. Cyber attacks have been launched on the QEH, commercial banks and credit unions, retail operators, and individuals. In the last 3 years alone, government agencies themselves have been victim to several data breaches, 3 to which are as follows. 1, the Barbados electoral list. On December 29, 2021, a preliminary list of over 264,000 Barbadians, including our names, national registration number, gender, date of birth, residential status, constituency, polling station, and address, was exposed to the open web. Though the list of voters has been removed, the 5,520-page Adobe PDF document, which could be downloaded by anyone with access to the internet, has been shared multiple times on social media and WhatsApp, and has even been uploaded to online platforms such as Reddit. One digital expert commentator states it should be assumed this information is in the hands of criminals and may be used to launch general or targeted attacks against individuals. What are the risks? The Electoral Office has exposed us Barbadians to significant risks of financial fraud, stolen identity, stalking, home invasion, and assault. The creation of fake IDs which may be used to open lines of credit, change legal titles, withdraw funds from financial organizations, obtain new passports at foreign consulates, or otherwise solicit business services illegally. Who was responsible for managing and securing this data? The same Electoral and Boundaries Commission that will be controlling our Trident digital ID. Now, at this point, I'm going to ask Reverend Ferdinand Nichols and Mr. Joseph Cadogan to talk to us about the infrastructure of the ID and to pose some questions to the government.
Good morning, and welcome to all of you viewing us on Zoom and YouTube. Pleasure of mine to be here. I'm Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, and I'll be addressing the subject of matters of technical and financial and human infrastructure surrounding the Trident ID system. During the rollout of the Trident digital ID, there have occurred several hiccups that prevented the full implementation over the past 2 years of the card. In February 2023, A technical issue with online registration slowed the process. Nigel Harper, a digital trust expert advisor to global organizations such as Aspen Institute, AT&T Wireless, Canonical, CIBC, Deloitte Consultant, European Commission, Internet Society, UNICEF, and others, commented and made this statement, and I quote, "The government of Barbados does not have the resources, people, processes, or technologies to secure complex IT systems and provide consistent privacy enabling solutions. If they did, there would not be so many successful cyber attacks and data breaches of government online systems as we have seen in recent years. For example, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the Ministry of Information and Smart Technology, the Immigration Department, the Barbados Police Service, and many others. Until government invests significantly in building their capacity in the areas mentioned, their IT systems and personal data of Barbadians will be at risk. I now call on my colleague to address some of the questions that we as citizens have raised.
Good morning to everyone who's watching us live. I now want to put some questions on. My name is Joseph Kadagan. I'm also an environmental scientist. I'm also a certified cybersecurity expert. I want to put some questions to you as related to the financial institution infrastructure of this digital ID. Within the context of clearly ill-equipped government infrastructure that has attempted to and repeatedly delay the full rollout of the digital ID in the past 2 years, what measures have been implemented that ensure our data is not breached now or in the long term? Are these experts and skilled government personnel trained to deploy and support the digital ID system now and in the long term? What alternatives and contingency methods of identification are in place to counter unintended consequences that can lead to the exclusion of persons from access of the critical services? So since I'm the one who's will be taking the digital ID, the question I have to propose is to the government: what mechanism will be put in place to address grievances and complaints from citizens who may encounter difficulty or discrimination who haven't obtained the digital ID card? And how will the government ensure transparency and accountability in the resolution of such issues?
Thank you so much, Mr. Reverend Ferdinand and Joseph Kadagan. I'm going to ask Maxine McLean to come to present those questions from our citizens relating to the expiry of the national identification card and the establishment of a January 31st deadline to acquire the Trident ID card.
Thank you very much. Having heard the several concerns about the current infrastructure as it relates to digital information management, etc., and given the information that as of January 31st, that's the deadline by which Barbadians have been told they have to acquire the Trident ID. Clearly, there are a number of concerning matters. A number of questions have been posed by Barbadians. There still is significant confusion, and therefore several citizens have raised a number of issues, and these have been summarized as follows. What contingency plans are in place to assist individuals who may face difficulties or delays in obtaining the Barbados Trident digital ID card by January 31st, 2024? I recognize there that people could have applied, but they have no control over the completion of their application and issuing of the digital ID card. Secondly, how does government justify the requirement for citizens to obtain the digital ID in order to access essential services, certain critical services, such as welfare benefits, medical treatment, unemployment benefits, particularly those who have challenges. And of course, we heard very early about our elderly persons being asked to have the ID PIN in order to be able to access public transportation, which they do now free of cost and with little difficulty. Another question that has to be posed is, will there be provisions for alternative forms of identification or verification for individuals who are unable to obtain that Trident digital card due to any kind of extenuating circumstances, such as the lack of documentation or technical limitations, etc. And if so, what criteria will be used to assess eligibility for such alternatives? So let me just run through quickly a set of summary questions there. One, what exactly is the ID card intended to do? Why are card holders required to PIN the card? Is it required or is it optional? And I repeat that one. Is it required or is it optional? Because we have had many contradictory comments, and these are comments from officials, including the Prime Minister of Barbados and the ministers who have been previously responsible for the digital ID card. What are the implications for cardholders who PIN the card? And that is critical, particularly recognizing the weaknesses that you heard articulated earlier. Then, for persons like myself, what are the implications of persons who do not PIN the card? Where can we go at this point in time to get accurate, up-to-date information on the Trident card? And a question that is also posed there is where used for identification purposes, can citizens use other forms of identification? Previously, or currently, I would say, we can easily use driver's licenses, passports, as two examples of alternate IDs. And finally, we want to ask, because this concerns many parents and guardians of children under 18 years old, can the government clarify what is required in relation to the issuing of identification cards for children under 18 years old? And I think until these questions are answered, there continues to be significant ambiguity and confusion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. McLean. I'm going to ask Mr. Trevor Allen and Charles Atkins to come to pose some questions to the government as to just some other questions related to the risks of this ID.
Good morning. My name is Charles Atkins, and I am asking questions relating to the risks associated with the centralized nature of the Trident digital identification system. In addition to the security and proper management of data, there are concerns relating to the risks that accompany the centralization of so much data in one entity and the sharing of our personal data without user consent. According to Part 2 of the fifth schedule of the BIA, particulars containing the digital chip of the identification card include our electronic signature, our password, a certificate for electronic identification, a certificate for electronic signature, other representations or unique identifiers that may be stored electronically, other personal data, including pursuant to a relevant enactment or B, an international convention to which Barbados is party. The Act suggests that when PIN, the card will also contain banking and transactional data and location-based info, for example, for using PIN cards in public transportation. Thank you. I'd like to have these questions answered at some point in time.
Good morning, Barbados. My name is Trevor City, Managing Director on Legal Wings and background with IT consultant. And the questions are for government. What provisions are in place to address concerns regarding potential misuse or abuse of personal data collected through the Barbados Credit Database Card System? And how will the government ensure transparency and accountability in its handling of citizens' sensitive information? How does the government plan to resolve public concerns regarding the centralized nature of the Barbados Credit Digital Card System, including fears of surveillance, identity theft, and unauthorized access to personal information by government authorities or a third party? Part 3, the Schedule 15B states, other personal data required pursuant to a relevant enactment or be an international convention to which Barbados is a party. What international convention is the act referring to? Why would a law be written subject to unknown events and conditions? Why would an identification mechanism not be fixed and static? Who is the owner and beneficiary of the Trident ID card? Are local Barbadians involved in designing and implementing the technology? Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor Seeley. We're going to ask Mr. Jonathan Daniel to raise some questions again. The fact that in the last 3 years, government agencies have been victim to several data breaches. And we, at the beginning, I spoke about the Barbados electoral list, and he's going to talk to us about IDB computer pretest and the cyber attack on the QEA, and then ask the government some questions.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Daniel. Let me speak about the IDB computer pretest. The IDB controversial computer science pretest was administered on the 3rd of October at 5 secondary schools in Barbados without parental consent and under the aegis of Ministry of Education. It included distasteful and invasive questions that quizzed students on their sexuality, gender identity, substance use and abuse, as well as personal information about their parents. What we would like to know is who was responsible for managing and securing this data. The same government that will be controlling our Trident ID. The next topic is the cyber attack on the QBH in December 2022. There was the cybersecurity breach at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, which resulted in the suspension of critical medical facilities and services such as dispensing of medication for new prescriptions at our outpatient clinic and accident and emergency department. Who was responsible for managing and securing this data? The same government that will be controlling our Trident ID. With the context of the historical failure of government agencies to adequately protect our data, what mechanisms have been put in place to effectively store, protect, and manage the information of hundreds of thousands of Barbadian adults and minors? Information that will be accessible on the Trident ID. What information would be accessible on the Trident ID from January 31st, 2024? In light of the engagement of private companies to supply, build, manage the digital ID system, what specific and clear measures have been implemented to counter potential risks of misuse or abuse by corporations and to protect the personal data of hundreds of thousands of Barbadians from being used to increase corporate profit? Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.